Seas.
Alter. Prost.
That's better.
Bitte tu die Dosen weg.
Oh Mann. Ja. Du moderierst an. Viel Spaß.
Sollen wir jetzt Englisch?
Ja. Ich hätte gesagt.
Welcome back. This is Tommy.
Yes, my name is Thomas, but my friends call me Tommy, and this is my project car. This is my 1990 Nissan 200 SX. I imported from Bulgaria in the fall of 2020, and since November 2nd of 2020, this wonderful piece of is mine, and I've been working on it ever since in a desperate attempt to get it working in the way I always imagined an S13 should work. But turns out an S13 is supposed not to work.
Well, actually, it's a Nissan, so
Yeah,
there's no other way to put it.
So it's kind of out of question that it's not supposed to work the way a normal car should work. But we are trying to change that. And
For sure we do, yeah.
because of that, I had the idea to do a full-on rebuild on this wonderful box.
Boss.
This is box.
So,
Yeah.
tell us your story about, because you imported the car from Bulgaria,
yeah.
and how much trouble you had getting the car.
Oh boy, that's the whole history of this car is just mad. I only can tell you one thing about the history. I tried to find out more about it ever since, but I haven't been able to, because informations about 1990 Nissans are just like kind of gate kept, or they just got lost. I don't actually know, but I imported it from Bulgaria in November of 2020, and the way this worked, a friend of mine used to import cars from Bulgaria, and I once talked to him about how I wanted to sell my 350Z that I owned at that time, and told him that I always wanted to own a pre-facelift big nose S13. So he was like, he messaged me one day that he would be able to sell me an S13 in a really good condition from Bulgaria. So I was like, okay, is there any rust in it? Does it run? And what's the overall condition? He was like, okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. The condition is not that good. It's been messed with, it's been tinkered with, it's been drifted by a stuntman in Bulgaria, but it's rust free. There has been a little accident, and the engine is running strong. It has good compression. It has some parts in it like ARP head studs, some HKS head gasket, and I was like, okay, if you can prove to me that it's rust free, I'll get it across the border, I'll buy it. We just agreed on a price. He showed me some pics of the underbody of the whole car, and it turned out to be pretty much rust free, because as you know, no 90s Nissan will ever be rust free. He can confirm that.
Yeah, sure, I do. My R33 is also not rust free at all. Well, now it is after, I don't know, 50 hours or so trying to be rust free and rebuilding some engine bays and making the underbody of the car nice. It's sort of okay.
So,
yeah.
back to this car. When I got it, I think it was November 2nd that I picked the car up from Graz in Austria, which is 1 hour away from where we live. And I took the blue plates, which are dealer plates. I acquired some kind of way, I will not tell the camera, and took the car and drove it home. So I drove it home. I arrived in front of my house at 10:30 p.m. on a weekday, and when I arrived, the car had a 3-inch turbo back exhaust with just one muffler, but the muffler was empty, so it was like 120, 125 decibel. So when I arrived in my neighborhood, like every light in the neighborhood, every house lit up, and everybody was like sticking their heads out of the windows and looking at my new car, and I was like, that's how you arrive in style when you buy a new car, yeah. So, following that, I just hadn't got the paperwork for the car. So I had to wait. I waited for 1 week, 2 weeks, then 1 month, and after 1 month I messaged the guy I bought it from and was like, hey, paperwork hasn't arrived. I'm not willing to invest any money in it as long as I don't have paperwork for it. And he was like, okay, well, registry in Bulgaria is shut down because it's private owned, there's lockdown there, blah, 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 okay. So I was like, okay, I'll handle that. I sent a nice letter, including a little gift down there, and 3 days later I had my paperwork on the table. I think the people in Bulgaria at the registry liked my gift. And then I had the paperwork. So, what would the first logical step be when you buy a new car? Like, do servicing, check everything. What did I do?
Yeah, you stripped it out.
Before that, I bought wheels and coilovers, and I slammed it on the ground. And then I was like, okay, this car looks nice. I'll rebuild it.
And after it looked nice, you tried to like find all the electrical issues it had with no bulb, no lights working, and what else?
Yeah.
Radio.
We've actually fixed that within 1 week. We fixed it within 1 week, and like when I picked it up, there was no radio in the car, but there was also no wiring harness for the radio. There just were, I think, 13 loose cables. Half of them had electrical tape at the ends, the other half didn't have electrical tapes. It cost me a lot of money in 10 ampere. What's it called? 10 ampere.
The fuses.
The fuses, yeah, 10 ampere fuses. It cost me a lot of money in 10 ampere fuses. So then we fixed the electrical issues, then I went on a drive, then I forgot to clamp down my hose clamp for the lower cooler hose. So that popped off and the car went up in steam in front of my house, so my neighbors had something to talk about again. Well, and then I test drove it after fueling it up, but the problem was all bushings were shut. And that was the point I said, okay, let's rebuild it. And now we are here like 1.5 years later. The car just came back from paint. The paint code is WK0. It's original Nissan paint. It's called, in this generation it was called pearl white because it's pearlescent. It's a pearlescent white color. But in the following generations it was called aspen white, like on the Micra and the Nissan Navara. But this color code is taken from the S13 Zenki, I think, from the pre-facelift S14. Yeah. So what's done to the car? There's not a single gram of rust on it now because the whole underbody has been redone, the engine bay has been repainted, interior has been repainted. I stripped everything out, and when I say everything, I mean everything. It just arrived there with a steering wheel, a handbrake, and front and rear axles. Front and rear subframes have been powder coated. They were sandblasted before, then they were zinc coated, then they were powder coated. Every single bushing in this car is polyurethane now. Then I put in some variable suspension arms on the rear subframe so I can set the car up the way I want it to handle. Because this car is multi-purpose, it's for stance, so lower driving, but it's also for drift events if I want to do them. In this condition, of course,
you will do it for sure because I know.
No, I doubt it. I doubt it. So. But I think it's gonna happen one day. Maybe one day I will go drifting with this car, but I don't think it's in the near future, so let's see. But whole subframes were redone, the whole car was repainted, and now at the moment I'm working on getting the wiring and the interior back together. So when I get my engine back from the engine builder, I can just swap it in, hopefully turn the key, and it will fire right up. But let's see if it works out that way.
We will follow it and try to film as much as we can, so you can see the progress of the car and stuff getting built together. So why do you need the engine to be built again?
So okay,
Just tell
that's also another story, because when I took the car to the paint shop, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have it repainted, I'm gonna assemble it, I'm gonna drop the engine in, I'm gonna drive at the end of 2022, which would work out, because we don't even have November yet when this is filmed, and the car is almost back together. There's only a bit of interior, a bit of engine bay bits, and yeah, the engine and the windscreen missing. So it could work in November, but the problem was I wanted to do a timing belt on the engine, and I took off the water pump. It was filled with rust, so I was like, okay, that doesn't look too good, let's take off the head. I took off the head, and I also took off the oil pan, because I was like, okay, let's look for some metal in the oil pan. If there's something wrong with it, we at least see it before we drive it.
Well, the thing we forgot to do it before disassembling everything, we didn't do a compression test.
That was kind of stupid, but the guy I bought it from was like, okay, compression is okay, and I just believed it, and so we forgot to do it, and then the engine was out of the car, and I was like, oh, I maybe should have done a compression test so I would know more about the health of the engine. But you learn from mistakes. I hope I learned from this one. And yeah, now we are getting the engine forged, because before I was planning on running it with a GT2560 turbo from an S13 on a bar with Valbro fuel pump, stock injectors, bigger intercooler, a boost controller set to 1 bar, etc, etc. But now that I rebuilt the engine, I'm going for a fully forged engine with forged pistons, better rods, then metal head gasket, some ARP head bolts, because the head studs for the CA18, they just suck to get off. They are a pain. I had to grind down a socket for half an hour to get the nuts to open, and it's not fun, believe me. So yeah, that's the plan for it. We also plan on adding Tomei pong cams, some variable timing gear from Tomei, and also some Tomei lifter springs, so we can rev a little bit higher, not above 8,000, because you would need solid lifters for that, but maybe 7,800 to 8,000. That should be okay with the engine. And we plan on running a GT2871R turbo on about 1.6 to 1.8 bars of boost, so that should mean around 300 to 320 wheel horsepower, I think. So that's the plan for now. Let's see what happens until the car is together.
In terms of engine management, so before he ran a which ECU did you run?
Before, when I bought the car, there was a Mega Squirt V2 in it, but the wiring was kind of sketchy, so I was like, I have to redo it. And
then we've decided, well, he decided, it's his project, but that if he puts that much effort in the car and into the engine, it might make more sense to go fully standalone. And probably the best way to do that is to get a Haltech with some engine harness adapters, and well, this should be pretty easy and plug and play, so he doesn't need to recreate the whole wiring harness. He can just put like R8 coils in there and just fire it up.
That's pretty much the plan, yeah, because I'm pretty tired of trying to rewire this car, because the wiring at the beginning of this project, there was a lot of electrical and wiring work, and I'm kind of full of that now. So there's some parts I love about working on cars, and then there's electrical things I can't stand that.
Understandable, yeah. So, yeah, you've told us all the plans,
yeah.
I guess.
The plans are told. Now,
the only thing he needs now is time and money.
Yeah. The time part, I should be okay with that. I'm all set for that.
Yeah.
I think in the past 3 days I spent like around 20 hours in this workshop putting the car together, so the time part is not an issue. On weekends there's no problem at all. During the week, yeah, 3 hours a day is also within the possible, but the money part, yeah. We need time to earn money.
That's correct.
So, but I think my prognosis is in summer of 2023, this car should be legal, should be road legal in Austria, should be registered, should be complete and ready to drive. So if you see a WK0 S13 somewhere in Austria with Austrian plates, better wave, might be me. Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. So why we are like telling you that registry and stuff in Austria, it's not that easy. To import cars and having them road legal, it's much more of an effort, like in Germany or even USA. Everywhere in the world, it's easier than here.
Yeah.
Because if you get the car from, let's say, an EU country, you get the car here, you need to do a full car check, which is like a very strict MOT check for the car, but the whole thing will be looked very deeply, like various tests will be done to the car if it's street legal, and to get this certificate for the car, it's in a lot of cases it's a lot of work, because I don't know, things they need to be changed.
Yeah.
For example, if you get a car from I don't know, somewhere USA or Japan. Jap. A JDM car. There are coilovers in their wheels and everything, and this has no
paperwork
for
being
Austrian
registered for Austrian street. For example, best example in my car, when I got the car from Bulgaria, there was a 3-inch turbo back exhaust, not legal in Austria. We had HKS coilovers in there. HKS coilovers, nice brand, nice product, but no paperwork for Austria. So we took them out, put in 10 coilovers, they have paperwork for Austria. We can run that. Yeah. Next up, exhausts. There's a lot of exhausts you can buy for an S13, but I only know of 3 brands of exhaust that make exhausts that comply to the rules of the Austrian road. And one of them, I'm lucky for that, is HKS. So I bought an HKS exhaust, also quite pricey, when you could just go ahead and put a 200 euro drift shop, stainless steel exhaust, something underneath the car and run it. But we have to buy the expensive parts because they have paperwork.
Yeah, because the car, like if you get it here and you try to do the legal compliances and to get it street legal, the car gets to a government institution, they check the car, and well, you need people, they tell you the car is okay, then you have your paperwork for the streets, but it's not done. And then you go to another government institution and pay your taxes, which is stupidly high in Austria. He has the luck that the car is older than 30 years.
Yeah.
So he doesn't need to pay the tax, but if you're importing anything else, that's...
But there's another twist to that. The car is older than 30 years and it's already been registered in the European Union. Yeah. Because somebody that I know, he also imported an S13, but from Switzerland. So a Swiss S13 has not been registered in the EU before, which means first registry date in the EU is in the year 2022, means he has to pay taxes for it. This one has been registered in Bulgaria. Bulgaria was a state in the European Union before, so no problem, no taxes for me, thank you.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a second video about importing and EU like regulations and whatever. If you guys are interested into, we can do it. It's a big topic and there are many people trying to understand it and also working with it, because as a private person, if you've never done it before, it's a mess. but
it's close to impossible. Let's say it like this, because he also had a point at what he started. I had a point at which I started, and to get to this point in knowledge about regulations of importing cars, etc., etc., we wouldn't be at the point we are at today without people who knew more than we did and who tried to help us out and helped us out the best we can.
Yeah.
They could, so we would be also more than happy to show our knowledge that is by no means complete, but our knowledge that we acquired over the years to maybe help some of you also import a Japanese car or whatever kind of car from any country into Austria and get it registered. So we could also do an episode about that if you would like that.
Okay, so all things said.
Everything said and done, I guess, for today's episode.
I think.
I would agree. So thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and enjoy some random shots of the car. See you. Bye.
Bye bye. Hit the like and subscribe button, guys.